All right, folks, welcome back to the channel. This is Asia, the full human, not the AI that everyone assumes that I am. I only use that for my cartoons. For today's episode, we're going to finally be covering the latest when it comes to Candace Owens and Turning Point USA. Now, before I jump into that, I just want to tell you guys a little bit about my experience with nonprofits because I think my personal experience with it and experiencing how some of these dollars get allocated and how you're supposed to manage them in some ways, not necessarily from the administrative side, but how you're supposed to do the job using the dollars. I mean, before I moved here, I worked for a behavioral health clinic that was a nonprofit organization. And so when you're given dollars, they have to be allocated appropriately. Every dollar has to be tracked and you have to pretty much know that what every dollar is being used for. When I moved to Texas, I joined Blexit Texas before I even had a job. And no lie, anytime I wanted to use dollars, I had to make sure there was a receipt for it, that it was accounted for, that every dollar was accounted for. If I spent my own money, I had to fill out reimbursement forms. This is just what you do. Heck, even in my current job, I'm not going to go into too many details about what that job is, but we still have to stay on top of every dollar that we're given, so that way it shows that we're being 100% honest and transparent, and we're accounting for every dollar to every penny spent, excuse me. And so with all of these irregularities, I should say, that we're seeing from Turning Point USA, I'm pretty confident in what Candace Owens is saying about them to be true. Honestly, I kind of just do. And I got to say this, and you guys are going to I'm going to push back a little bit of what Nick Fuentes says, but this is the beauty about being an individual in the America First movement. You don't always have to agree with everyone, right? That we can be different. We don't even have to like each other. We just have the same principles, which is loyalty to Christ and country. And that's America First. And I think that is Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, even though they disagree on a lot and don't like each other. I think they are both America First. This show is America First. A lot of the other commentators that we're seeing, Brandon Tatum, ABL, Tommy Lauren, Megyn Kelly, they're MAGA. Tim Pool, MAGA. And in today's episode, we're going to go over that. But before I jump into why the distinction between these two podcasters, I'm going to prove why first. And I'm going to prove why I think Candace is telling the truth in a lot of what she's saying about Turning Point. I can't say that I agree with her if Israel and France and any foreign intelligence are responsible for what happened to Charlie. I don't know if that's true. I know she's made claims that would suggest Israel and another foreign intelligence are behind it. I don't know. I really don't. But what I can say is that I think she was right when she said that TPUSA is rot, and she's getting smeared for it. She just is. Tim Pool's clapping at her, but I think she's right. And the reason why I can say that definitively is because I think she's shown enough circumstantial evidence that already piqued my interest, that got me thinking, is the furry trans man the only one responsible? Especially when you tie in a lot of the whistleblowers who, despite NDAs, are coming forward on social media. Other independent investigative content coming out about their finances, their financial irregularities. There's just a lot there that when you tie it all together, it's looking like there's a legitimate motive for Turning Point to take out Charlie. This is why I can say, yeah, I think Candace is onto something. Full stop there. And so my question now becomes, what the heck else needs to come out? What else has to be said by Candace? What else has to happen before the feds take this potential motive seriously to investigate it? And again, I am not referring to the accusations that Israel is behind it or that France is behind what happened to Charlie, but that TPUSA has a motive. Their financial irregularities definitely suggest that, in my opinion. We need donor transparency for sure because of everything that we've seen. Candace said betrayal. Receipts say she's right. Full stop. Full stop. Speaking only to Turning Point specifically, of course. Now, before I jump into my issues with these MAGA podcasters, specifically Megyn Kelly, because that's the one that really did me in. And I know Tim Pool kind of had a rage moment where he lost his stocko, but I could care less about what he said. I don't think anybody really cared. We just kind of saw him have a bitch-tude moment. Excuse my French. But Megyn Kelly is the one that really pissed me off, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment. First, I want to tie in all of the circumstantial evidence that we've gotten across social media so that way you guys can follow my train of thought. So that way you're not just hearing another podcaster say why I'm choosing Candace over this person or Candace Owens conspiracy theory over what the feds are saying. Because I think when you tie it all together, she's right. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert investigator because I'm not. But we're not stupid. And, I'm 30. So if I've been watching enough cop shows to know, since I was a teenager, the one thing I know is that you investigate every plausible motive behind someone's death. And when you run into a dead end, you start investigating the next motive and the next one and so forth until it leads you down to the path of finding your suspect and eventually the actual criminal. That's in every cop show. Since I've been watching, since I was a teenager, preteen, if it's really the closer, all the Law and Orders, you investigate every possible motive. And the fact that civilians are investigating what's clearly obvious and not the feds is bothersome. So I'm going to go over all of what I've seen these past couple of days, all of what I've consumed these past couple of days. So that way you guys, again, you're not just getting why I'm choosing her over this, but where my brain is going here, because it's obvious that there was a motive from Turning Point. Candace Owens, somewhere between November and early December, she says Turning Point USA betrayed Charlie Kirk. That the leadership of TPUSA betrayed him for the donor class of the movement. And on her live streams, she did say that the donors are trying to make sure that TPUSA can continue its funds or its funding for Israel. And that its support for Israel, that Israeli donors are moving into Turning Point. And we all know what Charlie said on Megyn Kelly's show, that he's getting the pressure, that these are some of his donors and it would cause problems. But she said this, and she said Charlie trusted these people. He trusted the people around him that he's hired, that were working at the organization, and he trusted some of his donors, but that these are the people who betrayed him, and that it was the donors that were pulling the strings the entire time. So let's take that little nugget of information. That one strain of thought. We know about her text messages with Charlie. We know that he was feeling the pressure coming from the donor class, specifically Israeli donors. We know that. We also know that a few days before he died, that he released a memo saying he was implementing Doge. So that way he can do an internal audit to figure out where the money was going. A few days later, he's killed. Okay, there's nothing to look at here. TPUSA says, the feds say, okay. Fast forward, it's December. Somewhere between the 1st and yesterday, right? The 7th, excuse me. What do we hear across social media? There are whistleblowers coming out on TikTok, X, and everyone's commenting on. Now, you guys know I don't mass produce. I don't like to share screens. So I implore you guys to go on X and to look up TPUSA whistleblowers. You'll find them on TikTok, X. The NDAs prevent them from talking too much about donors. But what they were able to say, despite the NDA, that the donors demanded silence about Israel from TPUSA. This is one of the things that Candace was saying, that there were threats of pulling funding from TPUSA if they don't shut up about Israel. This is why Charlie was getting a lot of flack for having Tucker talk about Zionism and the problem with Israeli influence over our government, like the APAC itself. This was a problem. This was one of the reasons why they didn't want Tucker talking, why they did not like Dave Smith having the debate about Zionism and Israel versus, Hamas and what was happening in the Gaza Strip. I mean, these are all facts. We do know that Charlie said to Tucker, go Max, despite the pressure coming from donors. And here they are using NDAs to shut people up. There's a couple of them. And already TPUSA is already using legal pressure trying to get these people to keep quiet. The people who've already spoken out, the whistleblowers, from speaking out. There was one podcast, I don't know the name of it. I do recommend you guys try to go find him. I think it's called DD Got a Podcast or something like Gov Got a Podcast. Got a Podcast, I believe it's called. And he did an episode in November, right before Thanksgiving, where he said that there's missing files reveal irregularities in their financing, that there is money movement issues. People's salaries are increasing, even though they cut some of the staff. That doesn't make sense. If you're short on cash flow, the last thing you do is increase salaries. You fire people. That makes sense. I mean, businesses just do that when you're short on capital, you're short on cash flow. You just can't afford all the staff that you have, so you start firing people. You don't increase salaries simultaneously firing people. That doesn't make sense. Math don't math. This echoes the nonprofit waste that we see regularly. It's always for some type of consult or advertising or media buying. That's another fancy word for advertising agency or some crap like that. And then the money vanishes. And this is one of the problems that Charlie saw, which is why he was implementing Doge in the first place. So my question is, if people are coming out, the whistleblowers are coming out left and right, not giving a damn what happened to their future careers, perhaps even their safety and their state and their sanity, really, because Turning Point is a big cohona. They have become the new Goliath. And the whistleblowers are the new Davids. Because this is the thing. If NDAs can't silence whistleblowers anymore, what's next for Turning Point? What's going to happen? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Because whistleblowers are coming out and everything that they're saying is pretty much corroborating Candace Owens' accusations that the donors were pulling the strings, that TPUSA betrayed Charlie. And the memo that she shared, which was clearly an internal memo, which proves to me that Candace has insider information inside the organization. How did she get the memo? How did she get it? Someone had to have given it to her. The memo says he was implementing a Doge department to go through the irregularities inside of the organization. Charlie made that executive decision. Turning Point tried to make claims like, oh, she's lying, this, that, and the third, but the memo shows that there were financial irregularities. Otherwise, why would Charlie make this decision? And when they still try to claim, oh, she's just a conspiracy theorist, boom, the whistleblowers come out and say, yeah, no, the donors really did not like him talking about Israel. That there were threats to pull funding. That a lot of the donors were had this dark energy around them. There was one particular whistleblower that said that. But there was a lot of shady business going around when it came to their financial management. This is adding proof. This backs up her claims and her accusations towards TPUSA betraying Charlie. Honestly, I think it was an illusion that he had control, because look at the moment he makes an executive decision. A few days later, he's killed. This is a valid motive. She's not running down a conspiracy theory in TPUSA's case, if you ask me. I don't know about Israel and French intelligence related to Charlie Kirk, assassination. I don't know. I don't. I haven't seen enough. There's circumstantial evidence that could suggest that nations were involved, but who knows? What I do know is that TPUSA has a valid motive to come after him, and that big donors, the elite donors that he has, have a motive. Turning Point is the largest conservative movement amongst young people. It has absolute power over the minds of young conservatives. And they know that. And if the person who is running it is moving against the tide of the elite donor class of said movement, they have a problem. So it's an obvious motive. Candace's accusations is looking more and more legit when you add the whistleblower statements to it. You know what else adds to it? How many of you guys know about Turning Point's tax forms? Apparently, all this stuff, because it's a public company, because it's a nonprofit, this is all public information. So if we all wanted to investigate this ourselves, we totally could. Now, I prefer to consume the content. I don't do investigative journalism. That's not me. I'm not an investigative journalist podcast or investigative podcast. It's not me. I react to stuff and make my cartoons. But I want you guys to follow my train of thought so that way you know I'm not just on her side because, oh, it's Candace. I'm agreeing with her, and I believe her accusations and her allegations about Turning Point USA because the math is mathin' in her favor. The odds are forever in her favor in this case, to quote Hunger Games. There's this, I guess you can say, X account or YouTube channel. He's pretty much like think of him like a financial investigative accountant. He's called the Wolf Accountant. And I think Jimmy Dore, I think he reacted to this guy's investigation. But this guy investigated Turning Point USA and their finances publicly. He did this publicly. Like, again, I didn't do any of this investigation. This is literally just all the content that I have consumed over the past couple of days. And I put all the stuff together because I'm not stupid. I watched enough cop shows, as I know all of you have at one point or another. And I'm telling you all what I saw because I want you to put the same information together. And then you tell me if Candace Owens is wrong about Turning Point and if the Fed should be investigating, because I think they should be. I agree with her on that. The Wolf Accountant actually did the tax form investigation and looked at the financial rot that is amongst TPUSA. There's a lot there. On December 6th, he pointed out there was super shady financial dealings at Turning Point. This is the Wolf Accountant. He did so much there. I couldn't even believe it. His investigation video, I think, came out on the 5th or the 6th. He accused TPUSA of embezzling millions of dollars. That's what he accused them of. And then pretty much showed, again, circumstantial evidence to back it up, because it's not like he's a criminal investigator, but based on the public information that he could find, yeah. And by putting boot to ass, actually taking action in IRL and not just being online, yeah, it does look shady, to say the least. The tax forms are showing millions of dollars funneled to consulting businesses, but there were no services provided. Sounds a lot like the Hillary Clinton Foundation, if you ask me. Millions of dollars funneled to these shell companies. Parking lot LLCs, Wolf Accountant called it. Apparently, it's these businesses are registered in an empty lot, tied to multiple donors of Turning Point and senators, Republican senators. Oh, but Candace Owens, she's a conspiracy theorist. Tim Pool says that she's tearing apart the conservative movement. No, she's maintaining America First resolve. She's being consistent. We want corruption out of our country, out of our institutions, out of the pillars of influence. If Turning Point USA is the largest influence over the minds of young men and women on the conservative side, and there's corruption, it needs to be exposed. This is not conspiracy. This is consistency. We can't just call it out on the left, but not on the right. Ex-TPUSA staff have already confirmed that the funds are for foreign lobbies, not even youth events. So what? This money is being funneled to foreign lobbies? I wonder who? What nation? Could it perhaps be the nation that put pressure on Charlie? The nation that we saw Charlie talk about on the show with Megyn Kelly? That we saw him acknowledge in the text messages with Candace Owens? What started off as circumstantial is starting to look really solid. This screams irregularities. This screams irregularities, that these dollars are not meant for America First movement and, for initiatives. It's for the elite. It's for the lobbyists. No lie. One of these businesses, and it's one of the senators, one of these Republican senators, his name is on multiple businesses, right? Multiple businesses for Turning Point USA. And it showed that the business of which it's collecting millions of dollars from Turning Point USA donors is registered at this mall in Arizona, in Phoenix. But it's listed as all of the units, like all the units inside of the mall is under this guy's business. But then when the Wolf accountant literally walked the entire strip, if you will, for lack of a better phrase, what did he find? That there is not one business here with the name of the company registered to this business receiving funds from Turning Point. He said all of the damn spaces and units inside of this small strip were registered to him, that this is where the business was operating. And there's restaurants, an H&R Block, and a dentist office, nothing to do with what the Republican business owner owns or does. What was also discovered is that there's this branch. And this was said by a whistleblower, not by the Wolf accountant. The whistleblower said that there is, I believe it was a whistleblower, it was one or the other. Anyways, he said that there was a branch in Turning Point called TPUSA Stocks, and that there was hundreds of thousands, if not millions, funneled into this particular branch. And the money that was sent there was allocated for staff, for employees. Here's the kicker, though. There are no employees at this branch. At least that's what their paperwork says. The paperwork says that there are no employees for TPUSA Stocks. But the money is designated for employees for said branch. What? That is an obvious irregularity. It's starting to make sense why Charlie wanted Doge. This is a problem. And in my personal opinion, what we're seeing happening with TPUSA, what's coming out about TPUSA and their financial irregularities, starting to look a lot like the Somali community irregularity happening out of Minnesota. Two different sides of the aisle. Two different, perspectives, right? You got the left and the right, but both sides are looking really bad. It's not looking so good. And I'm trying to avoid saying certain words because they're trigger words on YouTube that will trigger throttling. And I don't want to trigger that part, that thing in the algorithm. So I'm using euphemisms like irregularities, trying not to say the C word. But both of these irregularities are looking both like crimes. Both of them are corruption. Oh, there it is. I said the word, right? There it is. Let's hope YouTube doesn't throttle the video for this episode for me saying that. But that's what it looks like on both sides of the aisle. And people like Tim Pool are saying that Candace is splitting the movement. That doesn't make sense. She's being consistent. She can call out both sides of the aisle. Why is it only okay to call out the left? You think that America First is happy about this? That the movement that probably red pilled almost all of us has been hijacked by the elite donor class of what looks like foreign lobbyists, because most of the money is going there. At least that's what whistleblowers are telling us. These irregularities and this corruption, it's across the board. It's we the people versus the uniparty. Stop making this about left versus right. It's not a left versus right problem when both sides are problematic. Both sides have their financial irregularities with a donor class. Both sides have the problem. And TPUSA and everything that has come out between what Candace has said specifically about their finances, what the whistleblowers are saying, confirming and validating Candace's accusations, and then the Wolf Accountant's investigation, public investigation. He drove to the mall. This wasn't just him sitting at a screen like how I'm doing here, just talking to you guys. He did a full-out investigation of what information was made available in the public. Why are two civilians investigating what is a clear, obvious motive to kill Charlie Kirk? 3 days after he sends a memo, a few days, after he sends a memo implementing Doge to go over the very irregularities that Candace talked about, has been corroborated by whistleblowers and the Wolf Accountant investigation. Why is it that two civilians are the ones investigating that obvious motive to kill Charlie and the feds aren't? And that actually brings me to the point that I was saying earlier about the differences between MAGA podcasters and America First podcasters. And the biggest one that I have issue with right now is Megyn Kelly. Honestly, I'm sick and tired of going through this with her because there are moments where she pisses me off and I stop watching her. And then there are moments where she does something or says something or interviews someone like Jake Tapper, and then I start liking her again. And I'm getting tired of this perpetual wheel. Now, for full transparency, I will always be grateful to Megyn Kelly. And that gratitude will never go away. Reason being is because when she had her tit for tat with Trump years ago, she's why I started my red pill movement. She's how I ended up on the Trump train, how I ended up in the MAGA crowd, and how I eventually got here to being America First. Megyn Kelly started this whole journey for me. She asked that infamous question, and she started going to war with Trump. And I went right to the Kelly file. Here I am thinking I'm going to find out why I shouldn't vote for Trump. And I found out that, yeah, he's an a-hole, which is consistent with what I already knew about him. But Hillary Clinton is at best a crappy politician or representative. At worst, a criminal. And I began my journey, and that was because of Megyn. And for that, I will always be grateful to her. But my gosh, I'm so disappointed in her. Recently, she had Kash Patel on her show. I think that was last week on the 4th. She had Kash Patel on her show, the director of the FBI. And she had a softball interview with him, and I was pissed. Because the other reason why I like to watch Megyn Kelly is because she cross-examines the crap out of her guests, especially when they've already proven to have lied to the audience or to the American people. We saw that with Jake Tapper. Or when they are in positions of power, where you have to cross-examine them. You have to hold feet to the fire. You have to hold them accountable. This is why you have a free press in the first place, to hold them accountable. The lack of transparency coming from the feds is problematic, and this was the perfect opportunity for Megyn Kelly to get at the heart of it, and she just didn't. She failed big time. She asked them a couple of questions related to Charlie and related to Candace Owens, specifically Candace's claims about French intelligence trying to kill her, and Turning Point's involvement with the death of Charlie. Those are the two questions that I paid attention to the most. They spent a lot of time on the J6 bomber, and it's not to say that that's not important, because it is, but it's not a priority for America First. The guy who kept our extremism at bay was just murdered. You can't ask us to pay attention to the J6 bomber guy right now. That's not the priority. Now, Megyn did ask him, and I'm going to start with this before I get into the line of questioning about Charlie, because this is where my frustration was building when I was watching this. She did ask him about Candace's claims related to French intelligence. She got an inside tip from the French government that someone in French intelligence and perhaps even Israeli Mossad agent working together trying to kill her. She asked him about that, and he did confirm that there is an FBI probe on on the assassination claim. Right, that they're like pretty much confirming that there was that. But she didn't ask him how credible it was, has gone through all the threat assessment. Can you confirm that it's legitimate? What have you heard? Have you started investigating it? What is happening with the French intelligence? And what is the president planning on doing that a foreign European entity is looking to take out one of his citizens? What is the government doing? Did she ask any of those questions, follow-up questions? No. Why no arrests in this investigation if you're investigating it? She didn't ask those questions. She just asked if he received it. And honestly, you know what he said? He said anytime there is a threat on the life of an American citizen, they report it to the FBI. We look into it. There was no follow-up. Well, how credible? Is it legitimate? What's the threat assessment? I know you guys do one of those. These are the questions she should have been asking specifically about the threat assessment, for the threat about French intelligence and a Mossad agent trying to kill Candace. Where was the pushback? Where was it? There was none. Getting so sick of her right now. I feel like she's protecting the FBI, protecting Kash Patel because she likes her access to Kash and to the FBI. She likes her access to this administration. Now, it's not to say that she doesn't have issues with the pro-Israel lobbyist groups. It's like obviously she's getting pressure. Obviously she's taking some issue. She acknowledged that when she sat down with Charlie. So I can give her grace in that regard. But come on. You're a freaking journalist who knows how to cross-examine people. And I understand that the podcast forum is slightly different, right? In the podcast forum, you give your opinion a little bit more because people who are going to listen to you want to know more about what you think and how you feel about certain issues, because it does help us trust you. In this case, I don't care about your opinion, Megyn. I want your objectivity, and I want you to cross-examine this FBI director like you did Jake Tapper. I want to know how far has his investigation gone in Candace's claims. For starters, that would have put to bed all of this hogwash that Candace was lying about it. That it's not legitimate, when clearly he could have confirmed that it was legitimate and that it was a credible claim and that they are investigating it, and it does look like it's yielding some leads. No questions about any of that. And that brings me to the turning point one. She asked him flat out, have you received any information or any evidence to support Turning Point USA's or anyone inside Turning Point being connected or involved with the death of Charlie Kirk? He flat out says no. Just hard body, just straight up no. No follow-up questions at all. I'm like, what? So Kash Patel comes on your show, Megyn, on the 4th. But between November and December 1st and December 3rd, we've seen circumstantial evidence from Candace Owens. We've heard whistleblower statements on social media corroborating her circumstantial evidence about the financial irregularities and the donors and the memo coming out from Charlie Kirk specifically. Then there's an investigation done by another content creator on social media to show the financial irregularities out. And you don't think it's a good question to ask Kash Patel? Well, all of the circumstantial evidence, you tie it together individually, maybe inadmissible, but collectively, it's an obvious motive. Are you investigating all motives? She didn't ask that question. Now, I would expect Kash to say some things and to dodge some questions, because I get it. You don't want to hurt the prosecution's case against this furry tranny, Tyler. I get it. You don't want to hurt the case. But here's the thing. Is Tyler the actual guy who did it? If he is he the only one involved? Because honestly, I'm having a hard time believing that he could do this himself. For starters, this type of a kill requires planning. One had to know where Charlie would be, where he would be sitting. For Tyler to know to stand on that building, to be on that building, to take the shot in the first place. How did he know to be there? How did he? Someone had to tell him. On top of that, after Charlie gets shot, you've got TPUSA staff cross-contaminating the crime scene by standing on the very chair that Charlie was killed in. So you're already repositioning the chair, so the chair's not where it was when Charlie got shot. You're removing the SD card from cameras. At best, you are, what's the word for it? Tampering with evidence. At best. At worst, you're obstructing justice. Why are these people not being brought in for questioning? She didn't ask that question. Was that guy brought in for questioning? Is he being charged with obstruction of justice or evidence tampering or cross-contamination of a crime scene? The soles of your feet just stepped on a bloody chair. You're making it harder to do our investigation already by doing that. There are obvious motives because of the financial irregularities. Are you investing every motive related to this? Few days before he dies, he announces Doge. And then he's killed because he knows that money is being funneled into foreign lobbyist groups and being funneled into politician pockets, and it's being funneled into shell companies. He's finding this out and he wants Doge immediately. Days later, he's killed. Are you investigating any of those claims? Any of these obvious motives? She didn't ask those questions. Candace Owens, again, is not a conspiracy theorist. This isn't conspiracy. It's consistency. Why didn't Megyn ask those questions? This was a failure in her duty as a podcaster, as a journalist. This is how I tied all this stuff together. You just take little bits of information, you tie it together. Candace says turning point is a rot, that Charlie was betrayed, that the donors are pulling the strings, that they were mad at Tucker. They were mad at Charlie for Tucker and Dave Smith commentary about Israel, about the Israel lobby, about what Israel's doing, about their influence over our government. That Charlie was feeling the pressure. We see the text messages coming out, talking about what he's doing. The memo comes out. This is all circumstantial. The whistleblowers confirm her circumstantial evidence to be legit and that Charlie's concerns were legit, making her circumstantial evidence a little bit more than circumstantial. Now, in civil court, this would be enough for, the defense, if you will. Let's assume it was Candace, for her to win, right? Because it's more likely than not in civil court. In criminal court, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, I think she's met that burden if you add all this stuff in. And that's from civilian investigations and whistleblower test statements on social media. Why are the feds not investigating? Why are 2 civilian podcasters investigating this? This is a legitimate motive to go after Charlie, to kill him. And you can't tell me that we're automatically supposed to believe the feds because Trump is in there, because Kash Patel is in there. Long before Trump had power, the feds were around. And long before Trump had power, the feds were totally failing in their duty. And this is why we're asking for transparency. I mean, why do you think we're asking for it to begin with? We wouldn't be asking for all these documents on Epstein and JFK and MLK if we felt like we could trust you. We don't. I wouldn't trust Kash Patel if his tongue came notarized. Full stop. You don't say before you get in there that there's a there with Epstein, and then after, there's nothing there, but Ghislaine Maxwell's still in jail. That doesn't make sense. And we're supposed to trust you? No, I want all the evidence. I want to know all of your train of thought. I want to know if you're investigating every motive. And from the sounds of it, from that interview that Megyn gave, he's not investigating anything else. He's protecting the donor class on the right. And if Megyn Kelly won't push these questions, I mean, she's the person that you want to sit in front of these people because she has the ability to cross-examine. So if she's not going to hold the leaders of institutions accountable, then who the heck is? When are we going to find another person who's going to have that interview again? Dave Smith sure as the heck isn't going to get that interview. Tucker Carlson is going to get the interview. We know damn well Candace Owens isn't going to get the damn interview. We know that's not going to happen. The perfect opportunity to hold his feet to the fire on these cases, and she doesn't? Who's left to demand accountability if Megyn Kelly won't do it? No, they want to accuse Candace and America First supporters like us that, oh, well, you're tearing apart the movement. We're going to be the reason why we lose the midterms. And I'm sick of that criticism that we're getting, especially from Tim Pool. I'm sick of it. As if we can't acknowledge two things are true here. No, we do not want the left to have power because they are an enemy, severe enemy. Their morals are completely seditious and satanic. And they want to destroy our country. Completely can agree there. Where we don't agree with MAGA is that we are not willing to tolerate corruption by the donor elites on the right, just so the left can't have power. We're not willing to make that concession. We're sick of dealing with corrupt officials. We are sick of the donor class. We're sick of the elites. We're sick of them. But MAGA is clearly willing to just tolerate criminality and irregularities from the donor class on the right as long as the left don't get power. And that is not enough. It's just not. And you can't tell us that we're to blame if they lose the midterms. No, run better candidates. It's not our fault if you lose. It's your fault. It would be the GOP's fault. Don't run moderates. Don't run people who are collecting a lot of cash from donor elites, from foreign lobbyist groups, even AIPAC. We want America first, meaning America only candidates. You don't do that. You will lose. That's your fault. You don't refocus your attention on community and Main Street and America first. You will lose. You don't push for transparency for the American public. You will lose. And we're holding your feet to the fire. We're saying something for a reason. We are putting pressure on the people in power. That is how you're supposed to do it, Tim. Megyn. You don't clap at us and criticize us because we want transparency. Why do we want it? Because they failed. And in your job on speaking truth to power, you are failing too. Both sides of the aisle are committing crimes. Both sides of the aisle, I'm seeing financial irregularities that should be investigated by the feds. But according to Tim Pool and everybody on the right, it's okay to investigate what's happening in Minnesota, but it's not okay to investigate what's happening in Arizona. Because Turning Point has huge influence over the next voting block. And you can't hurt them because we need to make sure that we win in 2028 and these midterms. Are you kidding? That's your reason? America first. Man, we are loyal to Christ and country. In that order. You MAGA folk, Tim, Brandon, Megyn, Tommy Lauren, you guys, you are loyal to Trump, to the donor elite, and that means you are willing to put up and concede to ignoring whatever criminality or financial irregularity or impropriety from them if it means keeping the left from power. That is a problem. Because you're willing to compromise in your principles. If you become the very thing you're trying to destroy, you're no better at all. And everyone on America First, honestly, you should be listening to what Candace has to say about the financial irregularities and the obvious motive. I can't speak to what she's saying about foreign intelligence being responsible or being a part of killing him. I believe her when she says the French trying to kill her. I believe her for that. They're already locking up their own journalists and they know that we're not going to arrest her here because of First Amendment right. The only way you're going to be able to get her is to kill her. And because it's an open secret amongst the intelligence communities that French will do what they want to do when it comes to assassinations, I believe her when she says it because now the open secret, everybody knows about it now. I believe her. And again, it's not because it's Candace. It's because the math is mathing. The odds are in her favor. What started off as circumstantial about a potential motive from Turning Point is looking less and less circumstantial and more legitimate for an investigation from the feds. And civilians should not be the ones to prove that. America First needs to continue to do what it's doing and hold the line. Mission over man. MAGA is clearly folding to power. Clearly. Because they don't want the left to have it. But we're fighting for our principles. We want corruption out on both sides of the aisle. We want the uniparty destroyed. We want these institutions busted up. We want Project 2025. We want a total restoration of what our country was, not what it is today. Now, are you America First or are you donor first? Where do you draw the line? Let me know in the comment section. Do you believe that Candace Owens is right when it comes to TPUSA has a potential motive of getting rid of Charlie? I think so. I just laid out all the circumstantial evidence from her, from the Wolf accountant, as well as the whistleblower statements. These three things together, the Charlie Kirk memo for Doge, this is a motive. The Fed should be investigating. In my personal opinion, Candace Owens has been vindicated. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. We've all watched cop shows. We've all been there. We all know what it's like. We all know. One point or another, we've all watched it. We can all tie this data together and figure it out for ourselves. And that's what they're afraid of, Turning Point. This is why they didn't want Candace sitting down with them, because they knew. They knew she would ask the questions. Yes, she would ask about the Egyptian planes. And honestly, I think there is a there. I really do. But honestly, how many of you were shocked that that didn't happen? Because I wasn't. Personally, I looked at that invitation like the ceasefire. It wasn't going to last, right? At one point or another, someone was going to break the ceasefire, and then they would go back and forth on whose fault it is for why it ended. That's exactly what happened here. They reached out. Candace confirmed she'll do it virtually. They said, if not in person, no, it's canceled. And now everybody's going back and forth as to whose fault it is. This was predictable. They did not want Candace in the room. They did not want Candace asking questions. And there's a whole lot of rumors about that. And I'll probably go more into that in another episode. But you guys, I wasn't surprised. And you shouldn't have been either. And I don't think you guys were either. I think you guys are smarter than that. I think we all are here on America First. We all knew that wasn't going to happen. But we need to maintain our resolve. Mission over MAGA. We will not compromise in our principles. We will not compromise in our values. We do not allow the elite class on the right to get away with crap just so the left can so the left doesn't get power. We do not become what our enemies are. And we call it out on both sides. But that's my time, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys are you're subscribed. You're hitting the notification bell so that you're always made aware of every episode that comes out. Also, I made a link available. My novel is officially available for free. I wrote it in 2017. It hasn't been published, hasn't been professionally edited. I haven't even ran it through AI. It's just been sitting there on a desk in my desktop on a USB. But I figured, why not let you guys see what you think of it. Now, keep in mind, this was written when I was in my Jackie Collins phase in my early 20s, so it can be a bit vulgar, but I think you guys are going to like it. So click the link in the description, head over and download your free copy, subscribe to my Substack, America First AI Network, also link in the description. But that's my time, everyone. Until next time.